Okay. Okay. So your name is Brandon, right?
You got it.
And so my first question would be, where did the idea for Master Talk come from?
Yeah, for sure, Jesus. So for me, it all came from university. I went to business school and I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age are playing rugby or baseball or basketball, I wasn't one of those guys. I did presentations competitively, and that's how I learned how to speak. But then as I got older, Jesus, I started helping students in college and university because they didn't really have anyone to help them with their competitions. And that's how I got better at communication over time. And then it led to MasterTalk because I realized that everything that I was sharing with them wasn't really available for free on the internet. Jesus, you hear advice like be yourself, follow your dreams. I was like, this sucks. So I started making videos on communication. Then a
Exactly.
few years later, it turned into something a lot bigger than I thought it would.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, well, I should have started out with this question. Okay, well, can you introduce yourself and give me a little bit more of who you are? And
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So yeah, my name is Brian Kumarasamy. I'm the founder of MasterTalk. MasterTalk is a YouTube channel I started a few years ago to help the world master the art of communication and public speaking. And I also have a coaching practice for entrepreneurs and executives to become top percent communicators in their industry.
that's great. That's great. So now, what do you find is the biggest challenge with public speaking?
Yeah, for sure, Jesus. I would say the biggest challenge with public speaking is motivation. So if you don't have the motivation to do something, you won't be able to push through the fear. That's why the question I always start with is how would your life change if you're an exceptional communicator?
Great.
Because
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of people, right, they don't dream about their communication. They dream about their vacation, the expensive things we want to buy. But when we dream about our communication skills and we go, how would my life change? Then we get more excited to practice it.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So now, why do we struggle so much with public speaking?
For sure, man. The reason we struggle so much is because of the education system. Think about it. All of the presentations that we have, we got in school. That's how we learned how to speak, elementary school, high school. But all of those presentations have three things in common. Number one, they're all mandatory. We don't wake up one morning and say, hey, Jesus, you want to get breakfast and present all day? Nobody really says that. Number one. Number two is all of those presentations are different. You don't get to pick the topic. So it's never what are you passionate about? It's you got to talk about the Renaissance and the history of Missouri and Shakespearean poetry. And you're just like, what? And you have to give presentation on these random topics. And then number three is that every presentation is tied to a punishment. So if you don't do a great job, you lose grades on your report card. You get punished for it. So if all of your presentations are mandatory, different, and tied to a punishment, Jesus, you grow up to believe that communication is a chore and nobody wants to get better at doing the dishes.
That is so true. That reminds me of when I was in from junior high school and up, how you have to do what I call a oral talk. Same principle. You had to speak about, and if you didn't do good, well, your grade. Yeah, it is so true. I didn't even think about that.
Absolutely, man.
So now, so now, what daily exercise can we do to practice communication?
Yeah, for sure, Jesus. I call it my easy threes. So the first one is called the random word exercise, which is simply this: pick a random word like cylinder, pajamas, hat, and create random presentations out of thin air with the word. And what this does is it helps you with the following. If you can make sense out of nonsense, you can make sense out of anything. And that's what the random word exercise allows you to do, is it allows you to make sense out of nonsense. So do the random word exercise a few times a day with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and you'll be a lot better. That's number one. Number two is question drills. We get asked questions all the time, Jesus, in our life. On a podcast, at work, in our life, when we're selling services, we get asked questions about our offer all the time. But a lot of us are reactive to the questions we get asked not proactive. So I'll give an example. When I started podcasting, somebody asked me this question once: where does the fear of communication come from? And I was like, I don't know, man. San Diego, Los Angeles? Like, I just had no clue. So what I did was I became more proactive. So every day for 5 minutes, reflect on one question you think the world will ask you. And if you write down the answer to that question once a day for a year, you'll have answered 365 questions about your business, about your life. You'll be unstoppable. And finally, number 3 is so simple that nobody does it. Send video messages to the people that you care about. Make a list of the 5 people you appreciate the most in your life, your friends, your family, your clients, and ask yourself, when was the last time you sent them a 20-second, not 20-minute, a 20-second video message saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Wish you a wonderful week. Hope you're enjoying the holiday. It's simple, but it's so simple, Jesus, that nobody does it. And it makes you a ton of money too, if you're in a client-facing business.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. See, here's the now I did listen to one of your videos, and when I did my last podcast episode, I did an while I was dry. I do a lot of dry run for my podcast before I actually start recording. So I started doing and I thought, and your video came to mind. I said, well, okay, let me just start pausing, and I eliminated some of the
I love that, man. That's great.
Yeah, but I love how you teach public speaking and how you make it so simple to where it's easy to grasp.
Thank you, brother. That's much appreciated. Yeah, that's really the goal, is how do you make this simple so that everyone can get it?
Now, any advice on how to communicate if you was introverted?
Yeah, for sure, Jesus. I would say for introverts, what they don't get is why they're better communicators than extroverts. So that sounds weird, but hear me out a little. Introverts have 3 key advantages that extroverts just aren't aware of. Number 1, introverts are better listeners. Because they speak less, they listen more. So they're able to adapt their message to their audience more effectively to make them successful. That's number 1. The second advantage is the pause. The pause is the most powerful technique, right, in any presentation. And the reason that is because it allows us to draw emphasis to the point that matters. But here's the thing. For introverts, pausing is very easy. And the reason it's easy is because they speak less. They're more comfortable with silence. So when I tell them to pause in their presentation, they just do it. Whereas an extrovert, it's really hard for us to do it. Because when we're at a party, we're at a bar, we always try to fill up space. Oh, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite wall? So we're just trying to fill up space. Finally, number 3, introverts are a lot more accessible as communicators. I'll give you an example. Let's take Gary Vaynerchuk, right? The CEO of VaynerMedia, has massive social media following, massive personal brand. And I'm a big fan of his work, but you either like the guy or you don't. There's no in between. You either really like Gary or you really don't like Gary. So it's one or the other. But you can't say that about Brene Brown. You can't say, I hate Brene Brown. You'll get arrested for saying that. Right? If you look at introverted speakers, Simon Sinek, Brene Brown, Susan Cain, nobody says, I hate these people. Introverted speakers are more accessible to the general public, and that's the key. Triple down to your strengths.
Great. I am an introvert, and for me, it's a little bit hard to get started. But once I get started, I can hold a pretty good communication. But for some reason, I have noticed even when I was younger, people that wanted to talk to somebody about their problems, they would come to me. And I found it fascinating. I think the reason why they did that was because they knew that I was listening, and anything that they told me wasn't going anywhere.
Wow, I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. And now, okay, so do you have any books that you recommend?
For sure, Jesus. I always like to recommend Thirst by Scott Harrison. Scott Harrison is the CEO of Charity Water. It's a nonprofit. He started to help people gain access to clean drinking water. And the reason I like Scott is because he's a practical example of someone who's applied storytelling and public speaking in the context of the work that he does. He's raised like hundreds of millions of dollars for his nonprofit, which is very impressive. And that's what I would love for all of us to think about too, is the way that we use our message in a practical way. And there's a great quote in the book, and the quote is, "The goal is not to live forever, but rather create something that will." And that always inspired me to keep doing what I'm doing.
That's great. Any other advice, anything else that you want to speak to the audience on when it comes to communication and public speaking?
Yeah, for sure, Jesus. I would say don't forget about the first question. How would your life change if you were an exceptional communicator? You know, a lot of people, when they listen to that question, they go, "Oh, yeah, that's cute, whatever." What you need to do, though, is you need to take that question and reflect on the answer for 10 to 15 minutes. How would your life change? Really think about that. Really reflect on what the answer would be. And if you're able to do that, you'll definitely become successful.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Now, do you have any information that you want to share, like for my listeners, that they would want to reach out to you and get with you?
Yeah, for sure, Jesus. So 2 ways to keep in touch. This is great, by the way. Thanks so much for having me. So the first way is the YouTube channel. Just go to MasterTalk in one word. You'll have access to hundreds of free videos on how to communicate ideas effectively. That's the first one. And then the second way to keep in touch is go to my website, rockstarcommunicator.com. I do a free training on Zoom every few weeks on communication. It's live, it's interactive, it's fun, and you can register for free at rockstarcommunicator.com.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Which my wife and I, we are definitely gonna check it out because I know for sure we need help.
Yeah, you're welcome to come, man. It's free.
And thank you. I really appreciate it. Well, anything else that you want to add? Because I got other questions that I was gonna ask.
No, that was it, Jesus. Thanks for having me. This is a really good episode.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
this is great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being available. I know for sure this is going to help a lot of my listeners.
That's amazing. I can't wait to hear the feedback.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'll definitely make sure you get the episode before I even publish it.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, you have a blessed day.
You too, man. All the best.
All right. Be blessed. Hey,